All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
There's nothing like pity applause. Thank you very much, everyone. Great to have everyone here. Kim is here today.
Kim, how are you?
And it's only Kim.
Yeah, that's it.
It's just Kim and me. Yeah.
Just a preemptive apology. If anything gets messed up today, it's my fault. I blame me.
I blame you.
Yes.
This is not very characteristic of you. You seldom like to take blame. It's very Trumpian. You have this one Trumpian thing where you like to foist the blame and explain how it's not really your fault because it's really, I mean, I actually have bad respect for the move. I think it's a great move.
Girl, you just,
but I'm just saying. Yeah, we have a great series of topics today, and I have to say, if Kim doesn't screw it up, it'll be a great first hour or so. Everett Kelley is president of the American Federation of Government Employees. He's a brilliant union mind, and the union for government employees is one that has been rocked by all of these layoffs. He will be here today, and so I'm looking forward to a spirited conversation with him as well in hour 2 of the show. I also want to update you, and we will update you on the big Kennedy Center honors announcement. Like, this is the stuff that Donald Trump should be doing. He should be doing the Kennedy Center announcements. He should be doing, we're going to redecorate the, not the Rose Garden. I can't believe he paved the Rose Garden is like this traditional, historic aspect of White House life. But I'm saying these kinds of announcements, we're going to clean the Jefferson Memorial, or we're going to reface the front of the portrait gallery, whatever it might be. Those are the things that Trump should be doing. Instead,
we're going to use gold leaf on the outside of the Lincoln Memorial.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to build a new ballroom here. We're going to build a new ballroom there. It's just going to be ballroom to ballroom. In fact, to get around Washington, they're just going to direct you to you go down to the the Trump ballroom, then you turn left and go about a mile down to the next Trump ballroom. You turn right. I mean, these are things that he should be doing. But he instead has decided to seize power. He seized total control of the weak GOP. They have completely abdicated their obligations to the Constitution, to the people that they represent, and you end up with this rising despot having successfully pulled off an authoritarian grab. I mean, I think it's complete. Now, I know you can argue whether it should be a capital C on complete or a small c on complete, but I don't think you can argue anything else. When you see an administration aggressively go after media, ABC, CBS, they've gone after Paramount to okay that deal. And beyond that, they've threatened others. You've even seen capitulation, surrender to Donald Trump in advance. I even wonder about YouTube. I wonder to what extent dissenting voices are played down in their YouTube algorithm. So these are all questions that I think simmer there, and you can argue, on one side or another, but that's just the beginning. He's taking on legal institutions, right? Any of these legal firms in Washington and beyond that took up any legal cases against this administration when the Trump administration was out of power, what are they doing? They're going after them. And then what do they get them to do? Those legal institutions, those law firms, they got them to surrender, to offer $50 million in one case, right? And that's just one case of pro bono work, of work for the president. And so it goes on. And now the academic institutions that are then threatened, funding pulled from all of these different academic institutions, what have they done? They've had to surrender as well, in large measure. Just too hard to take on the U.S. government at the hands of this guy who is a total jihadist. And so, in addition to paying huge amounts of money to the Trump administration, in the case of Harvard, for example, or Columbia, they're actually turning over the admissions data to this administration that has an agenda about DEI, about affirmative action. We want to see your admissions data, and
Scary.
we want to see your curricula. That's right. We want to see all of that which is taught at these institutions of higher learning. And we're going to pull funding if we don't like it. And they're doing it in place after place. And again, that's not all. Now we come to using the military against the people. And this is something that was always spoken of and understood to be a red line. It's in the Declaration of Independence or Constitution, if not both. And now Trump, in a super authoritarian flex move, is getting right to that.
We just heard David K. Johnston yesterday list the ways that Americans should stand up, all the ways of the things that we should be doing. And one of the things he said is that we should be demonstrating in massive numbers. And now we have Trump saying the Washington Post allegedly saying Trump has a plan in case that happens.
That's right. I mean, this is right out of a dictator playbook, a strike force, the idea being that we're going to put together this special force that can be deployed, they say within an hour, to any number of domestic and civil disturbances. So what you have there is a total power grab that is accompanied by a policy which is designed to strike down dissent. It's that simple. You can see already, for those who might say, well, I mean, don't we need something to kind of maintain order should these things get out of control? Well, you can see how things get out of control whenever he says things get out of control. He sent troops, National Guard and others, to Los Angeles where things were out of control. Kristi Noem made public comments about how this city is out of control. He talked about the fact just yesterday, LA would still be burning if it weren't for him. He was absolutely on a riff yesterday that was bizarre. I thought his riff yesterday talked about LA would still be burning. He talked about releasing water, how he sent the army in to release water, and they still didn't want it. He went on a whole riff. That was just the California part. But the truth is, we know, just to start with the first thing, we know that LA wasn't on fire then. They didn't send in troops or help during that time. And Trump didn't. It was an area of downtown around the federal building downtown that did require additional help, law enforcement, etc. You want to bring in the National Guard to surround that federal building to protect it? Fine. I mean, if Newsom wanted to do that, I would have applauded it. It's not the presence of the National Guard in LA that I had a problem with, given the fact that they were given a specific mission, if they were given a specific mission to surround a building and protect the building. It was the notion that Donald Trump could leapfrog the mayor and the governor, and in fact, leave them completely out of the conversation and bring in troops. And that's exactly what he's done in Washington now. Without consulting the mayor or police chief, he's handed over control of the police chief to Pam Bondi. She is a Fox News Channel talking head with a legal background. She did in Florida throw Donald Trump the biggest bone, which was associated with his Trump University and the lawsuit against it. And for a $25,000 donation to her election, or was it re-election fund, she dropped the charges associated with that Trump University. I'll remind you, a case that he had to settle for $25 million. There was real damage done there. That was a fraud. That university was a fraud. The same way the work with the cancer charity was a fraud. The Trump family defrauding a child's cancer charity, to the point that they were barred from running charities in the state of New York.
How low can you sink? Taking money from kids with cancer? Really?
Yeah. So
Thanks, Mr. President.
I'm just saying that the history of Trump and Pam Bondi is one that runs back through the bone she threw him, and now he throws her this super important job. But her qualifications for the job are not really there. The one thing she knows how to do is to speak full-throatedly and, passionately and angrily on the president's behalf, which is what she did yesterday at the press conference. The crime in Washington, D.C. stops now. I mean, okay, if it were only as easy as making a speech and waving a wand, it's not. I grew up in Washington, D.C. There is crime. It does suck. Look at that kid who was beat up, Big Balls or whatever his nickname was, the Elon Musk disciple. That's what started this whole thing, or at least that was the excuse. Anyway, he was beaten up in his attempted carjacking by 15-year-olds. So what can that tell you? It tells you that there are problems in Washington, D.C. that are transcending any kind of just crime spree that can be stopped with Trump, Superman, and troops coming in. The Pentagon will create a military reaction force for civil unrest.
What do you mean by reaction force there, Mark?
The idea is that these troops, hundreds of them, will be ready around the clock, and they will strike when asked.
What do I have to do in order to be struck?
That is the question. And I guess what I'm saying is the clear understanding, at least on my part, is that Donald Trump will decide when he wants to send troops in and when the unrest has reached a threshold to the point that he wants to send his reaction force in. These are 600 troops. Again, they're going to be on standby all the time. And they would split into two groups. 300 be stationed at the military bases in Alabama and Arizona. And that would be regions east and west of the Mississippi River, respectively, apparently. Cost projections outlined indicate that such a mission, if the proposal is adopted, could stretch into the hundreds of millions of dollars. It'll involve military aircraft and air crews, and troop transport via commercial airlines would be another way they could do it if they didn't want to actually, dedicate an army carrier to moving these people to wherever they're needed. This is an expansion, again, of President Donald Trump's power, but his clear willingness. And look at this, he's not even into the first year of his administration, and he's reflecting a clear willingness to employ armed forces on American soil. I mean, this is a section of the U.S. Code, apparently, that allows the commander-in-chief to circumvent the limitations on the military's use within the United States. They will need the Pentagon buy-in, and Pete Hegseth, of course, will buy in for whatever Donald Trump wants. The other thing I would say to you about this is interesting. Knowledgeable 26 in the live chat. Well, we're live in the chat and super chat all morning. This is a live show, so please jump on YouTube and you can join us that way. But if you're listening after the fact, that's cool too. I'll just read some of these comments. Knowledge 26 says, Big Balls was not beat up by a gang of 15-year-olds. That was staged, says Knowledge 26. I lived in D.C. for 10 years. They faked that. They faked that so-called beating in order to justify Trump taking over D.C. I don't know. I have to say, he looked pretty beat up, but maybe it was a good fake. I don't know. I do know that we don't need troops on the streets of Washington, D.C. Now, there might be Washingtonians that go, the hell we don't, man. Bring them on in. I want to feel more secure. But here's what I would say, and there's a great piece that ran, I think it's in the Washington Post, about if you were really serious about doing something in Washington, you don't bring in troops. Troops is the stupid bully kid flex. where you when you have that hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the way to really solve problems. The piece in the Post, let me see if I can find it. Did I not put it in the rundown? Maybe I didn't. The piece in the Post made a really great point, which is that the problems in Washington, D.C. are real, and they've been real for a long time. I mean, it's not the hellscape that Donald Trump describes it as. I go back there all the time. I grew up there. My mom still lives there. My sister still lives there. My friends still live there. I go back there and, I don't fear for my life. I go to the museums. I go to the theater. I've been to the Kennedy Center a jillion times. I've been to the Kennedy Center honors. We'll talk about that in a second because he made that big announcement. And I guess all I'm trying to say is, but there is real concern. It's a big city. So you're looking around. You never know when bad stuff's going to happen. But it's not, again, this hellscape that Trump has described. Once again, when he talks about graffiti and he talks about, the general sense of homelessness being in too many places, he's right. But the solution isn't the Army or the Marines or these guys graduating West Point.
Mm-hmm.
They're not trained in patrolling American streets and scooping up homeless people, or for that matter, even beating back whatever disturbance they may be called to. They're not police officers. They're military people who are trained to operate in theaters of war. Kim talked about it yesterday. Her husband used to be in the Marines.
Mm-hmm.
And he talked about, we were a fighting force. We're not a police force.
He said we were trained to kill. We're not trained to disperse crowds. We're not trained in matters of police. Perhaps he said the military police would have those skills. But in general, the military, they have a purpose, and the purpose is not policing our streets, and they're not trained on that.
Exactly. And so what the columnist, and I hope I can find this column. I thought I cut it out in here and put it in, doggone it. But I can summarize it for you, just to say that, what really is the problem in Washington, D.C., and it's effed up that we have to talk about Washington, D.C., like, why are we talking about Washington, D.C.? There's so many other things going on. Trump's meeting with Putin. He's leaving Zelensky out of that entire conversation. We will talk about that. Trump's immigration policy continues unabated. It's a total mess. We will talk about that. But you can see now we have to spend a moment on Washington, D.C. because he is road testing, even at the same time that he may be launching this special force. He's road testing the idea of taking over these cities. And he even mentioned, Chicago, you're next, then L.A., etc. All these democratically run cities in blue states. He's not going to St. Louis, it was pointed out by David K. Johnston yesterday, because St. Louis is a red state. He's not going to Dallas because Dallas is a red state. And so on. And Atlanta, and fill in the blank. He's going to Chicago, he's going to LA, he's going to San Francisco. So the idea is, if you really cared about Washington, and you don't, but if you really cared about it, you would address the real problems in Washington. They have a huge problem with truancy. They have some of the worst truancy numbers in the entire country. It's been that way for a while. They've been able to actually improve on their truancy numbers. There's so many kids not showing up to school, and they're still bad. You'd work on that. So many after-school programs have been defunded. So many preschool programs have been defunded. That's why you end up with these 15-year-olds, arguably a real factor in crime in Washington, D.C. See what my first point is. It's truancy, and it's the lack of activities in their neighborhoods. These things have to be subsidized. It's the best money you'll ever spend, and it's such little money. What an exciting announcement that would be, Donald Trump. It's not moving the troops in. Moving the troops in is a 30-day flex. You look like a tough guy, and you bring on Bondi, and she talks like a tough guy. Crime stops today. Then you bring in Kash Patel. You have Pete Hegseth there with that jaw that you love so much. You have all the Fox News Hollywood squares standing behind you. Jeanine Pirro comes up. She talks tough. But the reality of what's happening in Washington is about really getting in there and looking at the problems in that city. And I've just mentioned 2 of them. There are more, but you don't care about that. You care about the flex, the announcement, the theater. This is a strong man doing a strong man thing. And that's the problem here. This guy doesn't understand and doesn't want to understand. He just wants to make the announcement, bring on his crew, let us dominate the news cycle for another day. Yet another day, we don't need to talk about Epstein and the fact that I'm all over the Epstein files like a bad smell. And let's move on. And in 30 days, maybe he'll keep the troops there, maybe he won't, but the troops can't do anything. They're not trained in law enforcement.
Mm-mm.
It's insanity. And the last thing I'll say, Kim, and I hear you taking a breath, wanting to say something. How dare you try to interrupt me when I'm on one of my screeds?
My bad. I'm sorry.
I would say that, and I'll get to this in a bigger way when we talk about immigration and ICE. It's sad the way we've dropped all the standards and even the age limits for so many of these people that we're calling on to now patrol American cities and to act as law enforcement agents in American cities, in this case, Washington, D.C. We've seen the age limit drop in the case of ICE. They're desperate to recruit. We've seen the age limit drop to 18. An 18-year-old with a gun and a mission to round up illegals, no other real plan except we're going to rent a Penske truck, put in a fake ad for work, and when they show up, we swarm them. It's cosplay. They're 18 years old, these people. And this is a degradation of the Guard, of military people. It degrades the work they do, and it degrades the service that they provide and the security that they provide. So in the case of ICE, they're poaching from police forces, as you know, with a $50,000 signing bonus, et cetera. So they're trying to take the best from police forces or just former police officers. I don't even know if they're necessarily the best. And you understand that that is already degrading the police force, right? You're poaching police forces and sheriff's forces across the country to bolster your ICE numbers. So that degrades law enforcement in those places you've taken those people who are now in your ICE world. And the other thing is that young people, 18, 19-year-olds with assault rifles being told, you know, you're moving into this operation, and it's got a military vibe to it. You can see them masked, camo, and they're picking up guys in torn T-shirts who are just looking to get a day's work at Home Depot. But how long before a struggle ensues and shots are fired? It's a mess. It's not what we want. And to the Dean Cains of the world, the celebrity who grabbed more celebrity as he's now on Fox News Channel, he's sort of the cause celeb, is his declaration that he wants to serve his country and patriots really step up. Please. He's not even a real ICE agent. His fat ass is going to sit in the studio and he's going to do a bunch of commercials for ICE and the big job they have and that they are doing and how everyone should join Dean Cain in this effort. And the reality is, as I say, he's not an actual ICE agent. It's a ceremonial type thing. Don't tell me how patriots step up. Patriots step up what, and get makeup and then do a PSA? Is that what patriots do? You're an embarrassment, man. You're an embarrassment. And you ought to be ashamed. Secretary Noem unveils no age limit for patriotic Americans to join ICE. Law enforcement to help remove the worst of the worst from the U.S. is the press release from the White House. So that's a snapshot of what's happening, and it should be concerning, particularly this strike force. And as I look at that which they're charged to do, which is, clean up DC, it's laughable on some level because that's not what they do. That's not what they're trained to do. And the organizational aspects of the logistics of getting the police to know who to answer to, that's apparently a total mess. That's what these guys can't do anything. We've said it before. I've been saying this for years. They cannot manage their way out of a paper bag. They're horrible. It's a mess. Look at everything they've done. Nothing has been done efficiently. But they'll always say, it went so great. I mean, oh my God, it was unbelievable. How dare you criticize
We've
this
never
tremendous...
seen anything like it.
Yeah. Remember the Pete Hegseth on that Signal chat thing where he had revealed all of this information, the Signal chat back and forth, and he goes, how dare you criticize the heroic work done by these people, these Americans who flew these missions? And no, how dare you reveal what their mission was, but also, how dare you call that a successful mission? It wasn't a successful mission. They'll always say it was a success. Their mission accomplished moment that George Bush had in Iraq, they have it almost every day. We're doing something that's never been done before. It's just incredible. There's never been anything like it. I've never seen anything like the kind of work that we're doing here. So-and-so is the best ever, right? Oh my God. And what's his face is even better. And, no one gave me credit, but
I've never seen anything like it.
Exactly. Kim, can you run a little, and then I'll catch my breath here in just a minute, and I'll give you a little personal update. But the Kennedy Center, once he made the announcements as to who was going to be among the honorees at the Kennedy Center, he then just kind of went off script and talked about overhauling Washington. And since we're on that, let's just round out the Washington stuff, and then I'll get to the honorees and some of the other stuff that is happening today. This is, again, Donald Trump with the announcement, this is just this morning at the Kennedy Center, to basically tell the press everything they needed to know about who was being honored. And then after about 45 minutes, like all dictators do, he may mock the fact that more and more people are calling him a dictator, but boy, it sure does seem like that shoe fits. Fidel Castro used to go on for 3 to 5 hours sometimes on his speech. Kim in North Korea, his speeches go on for 3 hours. Trump, same deal. He riffs, he goes, and he keeps going. And this was about 45 minutes into the announcement this morning. He had already started riffing around on other stuff, and he's getting, digressing from the Kennedy Center honor announcement to talk about Washington, D.C. and how he's going to clean it up. And Kim has that for you now.
I'm just trying to get exactly where you want it to be. Here he is.
See if that's okay. How do you feel about Mayor Bowser's level of cooperation and her choosing to advocate for DC statehood
She's
right
the
now?
mayor.
And
Well, the statehood, let me do that one.
Okay.
Statehood is ridiculous. We want to straighten the place out. Statehood's ridiculous. It's unacceptable. It's the Democrats want it because the Democrats have, about 95% in this little area. Even I didn't get it very much. They want that. They want to pick up 2 senators, and it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And that's the least of the reasons why, by the way, but that's one of the reasons why. What we want to do is
the most of the reasons why.
Washington, D.C.
Stop for a second, Kim. You can just stop right there and we'll go continue back to it. That's the whole reason. We've talked about it on the show before. Why doesn't Washington, D.C. have voting representatives, given the fact that they have populations that far exceed those of the Dakotas, Wyoming, fill in the blank? I mean, it's really an abomination. They pay taxes, and they have no say in their own city. It's outrageous. And it was set up as a district. It was post-Revolutionary War, that whole thing. And it just continued that way because now he's right. It's all about representation, senators and congresspeople. And it would be clearly a Democratic stronghold. But their vote doesn't matter right now. And that's the way Congress wants it. They will never be a state. He's right about that. And Puerto Rico, same story. They're a commonwealth. They will never be a state. And it goes on and on and on. But those are the two that come to mind because they're Democratic strongholds, most likely. In the case of D.C., it's a lead pipe cinch that they'd be a Democratic stronghold. Anyway, so he's speaking the truth there, but when he says that's the least of the reasons, no. That's the reason. Okay, dude, that's the reason. Go ahead, Kim.
Greatest, most beautiful, safest capital anywhere in the world, and that's going to happen. I mentioned the word bones before. The bones here, we have the greatest bones. When you look at that Supreme Court building, I think it's one of the most beautiful buildings. When you look at some of the buildings here, it's so magnificent, and everything's good, but it's just dirty and not properly maintained. It's not taken care of. Potholes in the roads. All of it's going to happen very quickly. We're going to seek a relatively small amount of money.
You're going to bring the Army in to fix the potholes?
And we're going to put it out to bid. And we have great contractors here, great road builders, everything. And we're not ripping roads apart so they're closed for 4 years as they redo the concrete bases. And you don't need that. We need a beautiful topping by a very talented,
just a
asphalt
flim-flam
type person.
A facade is
somebody
all we
that
need.
does the job. We go out, when I get contractors, I use great contractors. To me,
Who
contractors
cares?
are
The best thing
Why?
about them
great
is I don't have to
contractors are
pay
very
them.
special,
Exactly.
like a great surgeon, like a great teacher, like a great nurse. A great contractor is very important. We'll only use the best. And when you put a coat of asphalt on that 2 inches of asphalt, 3 inches of asphalt, it looks brand new. You take all the garbage off. They reseed it, as we call it, or different names, but they
Did
take
he inhale
the
too
bad
much
stuff
hair
off and they
spray this
put the
morning?
good stuff down. It takes not a long period of time. A matter of a few days, you'll have a beautiful, magnificent road. You fix up the curbs. You get rid of the medians in this town are just horrible. You're riding around. I think to myself, leaders come from foreign countries. You see, with leaders all the time. Different leaders. They came in from India recently and from everywhere. They came in from a war that we just ended, Azerbaijan, and that, and Armenia. We just ended the war. The 2 leaders came in. One of them said, "My country looks better. The roads are better than, we were talking about." I said, "What do you think?" He said, "Well, the roads are better in Armenia than they are in Washington, D.C. It's embarrassing." And I was asked at the last press conference, they said to me, "How important is it? You're doing world peace. We're going on Friday to Alaska, meeting with President Putin, Russia. How important it is that the capital is important?" I said, "Very, very important." I told my father, said to me, "When you see a restaurant and you want to go and you want to have dinner, and then you go up to the front door and it's dirty, turn around and go back because the kitchen's dirty." It's the same thing with the capital of the United States of America. If it's dirty and unsafe, it sets a bad tone for the rest of the world. So
All right,
we're
thank
not
you,
going to
Kim.
do that. We're going to have this capital fixed.
Yeah, we're
I
going
mean,
to have this
and
capital
on he
cleaned up in a
goes.
couple of hours. Actually,
Sure.
I don't even think most we can probably, if we work through lunch, we can quit by 4, and the whole capital's going to be great.
Moly. Guy could talk forever about nothing.
That's what I mean. It's dictatorville, where he just goes on and on and on. I don't mean to suggest that anybody who goes on and on is a dictator, but boy, this just seems like we're coming in and we're gonna. And now again, I'll just say, you could once again, if that's really true, that maintenance of federal buildings is something that has, not been sufficiently funded, or has to be reimagined, or has to be upgraded. You could do all those things. You could appropriate money and you could do all those things. What a great announcement that would still be. Again, what I would like to see is, we're really going to help Washington do what it needs to do, which is upgrade this tremendous city in some ways that we can help with the federal government. Some of our federal buildings need upgrading. By the way, I was just there. I don't know what he's talking about. I mean, as I say, please don't get me wrong. There is graffiti in places. There are homeless people. There is crime. Yes, he's not wrong. But what I'm saying is, I don't know to what degree these government buildings have to be upgraded or need a facelift or whatever. I know that you guys who just come into the administration, in your offices, you spend $1 million on upgrading your offices. And the reason that they charge you so much is they know that they can. It's my money. They know it's not your money, and so you'll just spend. These contractors who come and you talk about, I know great contractors, I'll bet you do. And I'll bet you're going to get great deals for Trump-related properties after you give them the store with the government-related business. Hey, do this for me over with the government, and I will take care of you in a huge, huge way, and then you'll do this Trump property for practically nothing, right? We'll do it as a package deal. You'll do this new place that I'm building in India, new place that I'm building in UAE, whatever. You'll do that. At the same time, you'll do some of this Washington work, and I'll take care of you on the Washington side with the government money, and then you can continue with you. I promise you, this must be. Look at the way the wall stuff went down. Do you remember how the wall stuff went down? This is in Trump version 1. Trump version 1, he had contractors and assigned contracts to people to build the wall who he had relationships with. One of them, the most expensive chunk of Donald Trump wall, was built by a contractor who'd never built a wall at all, ever. Had no experience, but it was the most expensive part of the Trump project. And the contractor had the contract receiver, I don't even know if he was a legit contractor. He received this huge grant of money. And the reason had to be he was one of the big donors to Donald Trump's election campaign. This is the first election. So this is the kind of transactional relationship that Donald Trump has with any number of people, contractors, et cetera. So when it comes to DC, I'm sure there's a quid pro quo.
I am struck by Vilma's comment today that the Supreme Court gave Trump a pass for any illegal activities while he's president. And she wrote that when we were talking about the invasion of DC by the National Guard, if you want to call it an invasion, or the use of them, and the possibility that civil unrest may be met with National Guard troops as well. But what you're talking about applies as well. There will be no accountability. And I'm struck by what I thought this presidency was going to be like, and I knew it was going to be bad, but we're way over the line as far as what I had pictured in my head. Where are we going? What is happening in this country is worse than I ever thought possible.
I mean, I think you're right. I think this has been an accelerated pace that no one really anticipated, even as we knew and feared what would happen. But, because I'm a former Washingtonian, I still subscribe to sort of a newsletter that is all about Washington, D.C. It's called Hey, D.C. And they're talking about national troops, guard troops filing into D.C. and the Armory. They're talking about the Smithsonian, which of course is in Washington too, and is sort of interest to Washingtonians, undergoing the White House review of the exhibits, the collections, and the processes there. It's really a dry cleaning, as we talked about that, of American history. And then the ICE raids that continue in Washington at Home Depot, and also the real way in which there has been a change in Washington. It's a different place than it used to be. And so this goes to your point. It's just all happening so much more quickly than we could have thought. The Kennedy Center honorees, George Strait, country music star. He's brilliant. Saw him in a concert. George Strait, I'll say one thing. He has 4 microphones. I think I mentioned this before. It's a square stage with his band and 4 microphones. Band's in the middle. And he goes to each microphone in this circular arena anyway. Mm-hmm. This is in Las Vegas at the T-Mobile Arena. And he sings 2 songs, and they're great. George Strait's amazing. And he sings 2 songs, and then he moves to the next mic, on the other flank, and then the next mic after 2 more, and the next mic. And he rotates through the whole night that way. And it's great. It's really, everybody gets a chance to see him straight on, and he just does his thing. He has 60 number 1 country singles. Pretty wild. Michael Crawford, who was Phantom of the Opera, won that Tony for playing that role in 1988. Sylvester Stallone.
He's a Trumper. Are all these people Trumpers?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, if I had to guess, I think Stallone's thing is sort of a personal thing, probably, Maybe not. Maybe he's more, is he more, I don't think these guys get into policy. I think they're just like, Trump's my pal because he's in show business and I'm in show business.
Wasn't Stallone one of the Hollywood ambassadors,
Yes.
Trump's Hollywood people that he chose to,
Yeah.
connect to Hollywood?
Yeah, no, you're right. He was one of the Hollywood, he, Mel Gibson, and I want to say one other, Bruce Willis or, somebody like that, another action star. Gloria Gaynor, best known for I Will Survive. Kiss, the rock band, formed in 1973 in New York City by Paul Stanley, Gene Simmons, Ace Frehley, and Peter Criss. And that will be, they're called one of the greatest rock bands of all time. And the 48th Kennedy Center honorees are outstanding people, an outstanding group, incredible. Trump said, we can't wait to celebrate the Kennedy Center honors.
But the best part of the Kennedy Center show with the honorees will be Trump hosting the ceremony. He has announced that he will be on stage hosting the whole thing. So what would have taken 2 hours will probably take at least 6 or 7.
Well, you got to put aside an hour for him to talk about Biden and how the election was stolen. He did a whole thing on the election being stolen this morning. He did a whole thing on it. The 2020 election, which we won by a lot.
Yeah.
Some people are saying they couldn't believe how much we won it by, and they stole it. They stole that election. So I thought I'd never be back here, and now I am. And now exactly. You're gonna get a chunk of that.
All the hits.
And then you're going to hear about how it was the most watched Kennedy Center honors in history. So that's a little of what's happening. I just mentioned again, and this is sort of breaking news. This news of this morning, the White House saying law enforcement making dozens of arrests in Washington overnight after federal agents and National Guard troops fanned out across the city to quell this, quote, crime crisis that local officials say actually doesn't exist, with crime at a 30-year low. The National Guard arrived on the National Mall late yesterday. Agents from the Drug Enforcement Administration, I'm going to say something about this in just a minute. Agents from the DEA, FBI, and Department of Homeland Security were seen in several neighborhoods, sometimes accompanied by local police officials. Now, let me just mention, one of the reasons that it's really important that you see DEA and ATF agents and all of these, you may be wondering, why these other agencies? I don't get it. Well, you're right not to get it, because they're doing things that they shouldn't be doing. They're not really used to doing this day-to-day law enforcement, fanning out across the city to, break this crime wave. DEA, FBI agents and DEA agents are really doing the work of trying to root out gangs associated with drugs, ATF with weapons. The reason that they're bringing them in is because they're much younger. I'm talking about institutionally younger, not the people in them. They're institutionally younger than, let's say, the military. So when a group is institutionally younger, when you have the ATF and DEA, what can you do? You can now apply presidential decision-making to directing where you want them without regard to violation of the Constitution. You can't do that with the military yet. Turning the military into a law enforcement arm is still a tough flex. Obviously, Trump is trying to do it, but you can do it with DEA and ATF. And that's how he can enlist these other Homeland Security related institutions in his efforts. It allows him to bolster the number of people associated with these huge areas of presence. Right now it's Washington, D.C., but then it could be Los Angeles, Chicago, etc., that Trump wants. That's why you have DEA and ATF. So back to the story, they're there, they've mobilized, and, it has begun. The whole way in which he's going to clean up Washington has begun. We will watch it, but again, it's pretty textbook what he is doing.
The Mark Thompson Show.
All right, if you're here Yes, thank you. How about a little round of courtesy applause? Thank you. I was going to say, if you're here, smash the like button. That was what I was going to say.
With your iron rod.
It helps us in the world of YouTube. It costs you nothing to hit the thumbs up. Thank you for doing that. Ren0287 with a $20 super chat jumped into the massive YouTube machine, gave us a 20. Appreciations for the Mark Thompson Show peeps, actively making life better regardless of the news. Well, thank you. Big shout out, Ren.
Shout out.
I appreciate that. If we can make life a little bit better, I'm both astounded by that and I'm impressed by that. Harry Magnan for Kim's extra work of
Yay.
$5.
Big shout out.
Yeah. Very nice.
Yeah.
Kim is running everything today
Harry.
without Tony or Alba.
Kim, how are you?
Yeah. I'm looking at Vilma. Trump is whitewashing history in schools, says Vilma, trying to manipulate what people can even view at the Smithsonian. This is teaching generational propaganda. And Vilma
She's right.
is correct.
Yeah.
It is, it's embarrassing. And it is, on some level, it's so grotesque, sort of the reanimating of Confederate figures, the statues to Confederate generals, and the naming of these military bases after generals of the Confederacy or heroes of the Confederacy. Dude, that's a white power flex that is nakedly clear. Harry Magnan, here's to the contractors that Trump has stiffed. Yeah. Yeah. I know the best contractors, and I owe them. Roger with a $5 super sticker. Thanks, Raj. Appreciate that.
Big shout out.
Really do appreciate that, pal. Stan Pollock, CPA, my favorite CPA. Our president should be an author. He tells stories. It's true. He's always spinning a tale, you know? He's always spinning a tale. But love you, Stan. Thanks for the 10 spot, my friend, and appreciate you jumping in. I wanted to share a piece of news. I'll quickly do it here.
The Mark Thompson Show.
So many of you were so sweet in reaching out to me, and we lost my little Frenchie yesterday, and I thank you so much for all of your sentiments, and it's been a lot of tears, and you can imagine emotion, very tough. We haven't slept in many nights, and very, very hard for us, so I just want to say thank you to everybody who wrote to me. Many of you wrote emails, and I know you've also posted, and you've posted on social media, and you posted here in the chat, and it's just been very, very difficult. And maybe when I'm more emotionally collected, I can take you through a couple of the beats of what happened with us, because I think it's instructional for the future. And many of you I know have creatures that you're close to and are part of your family, and you might learn from our experience. We did everything we could for her. Richard Delamater says, in memory of your beloved Frenchie. Thank you so much, Richard. You're so sweet. Most of you are understanding of this, because a lot of you have been with the show for a while and know of my relationship with animals generally and with her. Chaplain Fred, you'll have to read this, Kim. I cannot, I'm afraid I can't read this stuff. So I'm a little raw.
I'll do it. Chaplain Fred with a lovely contribution saying, may your lovely cat rest in peace, Mark. May your heart be at peace as well as your families. I will say, as far as cats and animals go, Frenchie had the best house and the best life. I mean, what an amazing place to end up, to be in your house of all the places in the world, of all the places to be a cat in the Mark Thompson house. You hit the jackpot. So what a wonderful relationship you had with her, and what a wonderful life she had as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I'll need a longer stinger than that if you can do it.
The Mark Thompson Show.
It was great. I loved it.
How would you handle this? We could try ignoring it, sir.
Morning.
You cannot say you love your country.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Stay at home and get baked.
Right on, right on. Yeah, let me get my credibility glasses back on for my, the next hour. Special guest joining in this next hour. They're dumping federal employees like as though they're of no value. It's crazy what's happening in Washington, and it has happened. Doge and the Doge people who are all, these 19, 20, 26-year-olds, they went through and just sliced these government institutions to pieces, and they kind of delighted in it. And that's the sad part. I mean, you saw Elon Musk with that, chainsaw that he, as though all of government is a waste. All of government is somehow bureaucracy and needing to be cut. And then, of course, they tried to scramble and rehire a bunch of people. As it turned out, they fired a bunch of people associated with the maintenance of the nuclear arsenal. They fired a bunch of people at the NOAA and National Weather Service positions that they needed to scramble and rehire. So you get this. I mean, as I said at the time, but it bears reiteration, if they were really concerned with efficiencies and these government operations and systems and institutions and how efficiently they operated, you would do what? You'd bring in efficiency experts. You'd bring in management experts. You would evaluate where there is waste. They didn't do any of that. I mean, they had the whole thing done in 6 days. They had dismantled the EPA, USAID. They were going after the IRS. They were at the Treasury Department. This happened in like 10 days. There was no real review of what was going on. So that's what was going on in Washington, and they have truly hobbled government, including Social Security. We did a whole segment on it here. So we're going to talk to the president of the employees union for the federal government, and he's going to join us shortly, I think, actually. Everett Kelley, right?
Yeah, in about 10 minutes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I want his thoughts about what's going to happen, whether there is any leverage that those employees have, and the future. I'm quite concerned with the future. So we'll get into some of that, and that's in hour 2, which is upon us shortly.
I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that Trump is sending the National Guard here and there and releasing or having the story, come forward, although I know it's an exclusive Washington Post story, about this, plan to squash civil unrest as a way to clear out the Epstein story from the news? Like, how outrageous can I be to push that Epstein story down? Is that at play here?
It's built in that this will distract from the Epstein story.
Mm-hmm.
But this story is massively significant on its own. I don't believe that that's the reason he's doing it. I believe it's the added value he gets in doing it. So he's doing it because he wants to take control of everything. It's an authoritarian flex.
Mm-hmm.
The task force, the strike force, the takeover of Washington, the bringing in of ATF and DEA, and all of these, he's in charge. Now let me scoot over to the Kennedy Center, and I'm going to make an announcement, and then I'm going to go on for 2 hours. He's feeling his power. But it also has the added value of distracting from Epstein, because Epstein is a stink that he can't get off him. And you can talk about Bill Clinton all you want. You were around Jeffrey Epstein way more than Bill Clinton, way more. With a multiplier times, I don't know what, 100. So, yes, he gets the distraction, but it's way more than just the distraction. There was I was going to play the poll, Kim. Did I send you the poll? Where is the, what do I have with you? I was going to play a little video before our guest gets here.
I have a video about the Epstein case and flight logs, if you're interested in that.
Wasn't what I'm looking for, but all right, I'll take it. Because,
I have it ready to rock and roll.
Something else might be a little bit of a tough ask right now today. Anyway.
You get what you get, and you don't throw a fit. That's what they say at preschool. Okay.
All right.
That's what you're getting.
Here you go.
The Epstein case, who later worked for President Trump, could soon be called to testify under oath. Alex Aosta was the prosecutor who infamously gave Jeffrey Epstein a sweetheart deal in 2008, a deal that allowed Epstein to serve minimal time in prison, and a deal that shut down the federal investigation into his alleged sex trafficking ring. Aosta then went on to serve as Trump's first-term labor secretary. For reasons unknown, Acosta, the man who would know everything about the Epstein case, was left off the House Oversight Committee's list of subpoenaed witnesses. But tonight, a Republican on that committee, Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, is telling the Palm Beach Post that calling Acosta to testify is not, quote, off the table. She also says at any time he can be called to testify. I'm going to speak to the top Democrat on that committee in a moment about plans to subpoena Acosta, because even though dozens of victims had come forward at that point, Acosta, as I mentioned, let Epstein off easy, allowed him to plead guilty to just 2 prostitution-related charges. Epstein served only 13 months in a county jail and was allowed to leave the jail nearly every day for 12 hours. The Department of Justice review later found that Acosta exercised poor judgment in the case, although he continued to defend his actions years after the case was closed.
There was value to getting a guilty plea. You can always look at a play after the fact and say, should it have been the safe play or should you have gone for the big score?
This comes as President Trump is, many think, trying to change the subject from Epstein as he threatens a full-on federal takeover of Washington, D.C. But it's Trump's own party who won't let Epstein go.
The American people are sick and tired of this government holding on to all these secrets. They're sick and tired of being lied to by the intelligence community and by a deep state. I hope that we don't have to wait 60, 70 years to find out what really happened when it came to Jeffrey Epstein.
Kristen Holmes is out front at the White House for us tonight. Kristen, just as President Trump was trying to shift attention to D.C., his takeover is...
Do you want to stop?
I think you can stop. Yeah, I got it. I got it. But I think it's significant. I think that, the idea somehow that you would, and sorry, I was just trying to put that banner together. I think I left a couple of letters out of certain words. Kim and I are just kind of one-man banding it today. The reality is that Acosta is, to me, someone who knows a lot. I mean, and when he talks about, well, I just want to get a conviction. Seriously, dude? You could have easily gotten a conviction. Look at how easily they got a conviction of Ghislaine Maxwell. She was just the assistant. Now, she did stuff. I mean, based on witness testimony and based on jury decision-making, she got 20 years for a reason. She recruited girls, groomed girls, and then actually violated girls. Okay, that really happened. And Epstein was a layup legally. And so don't tell me, Alex Acosta, about how you had to sort of, because it was such a tough case, you were just happy to plead it down. Really? In pleading it down, you gave this guy beyond just the minimal plea that he had. You gave him this get out of jail free card. They had a non-prosecution agreement with him. We'll talk more about it with David Katz tomorrow, but that's hugely relevant. So Alex Acosta, I'd love to see him subpoenaed, and so would MAGA Nation. But MAGA Nation is really caught because they know their guy is all over the Epstein case like a bad smell, and yet they also know that their guy was the guy who said that he would be transparent about it. They thought, or they argued, I mean, this is the thing, and as I said, Epstein cuts both ways. He cuts onto Democrats in a big, big way. And then he cuts onto Donald Trump and Republicans as well. So if you're looking to be just wielding that blade toward Democrats, careful, because you're going to nick some Republicans along the way. And obviously, Trump is already cut. So I would just say that this is interesting because of what it's doing with MAGA Nation. I mean, Trump knows that Democrats are always going to go thump, thump on the drum for release the Epstein files now, because they know he's not going to. That grand jury thing was just that. Grand is the right word. It was grandstanding for an excuse to pretend you're doing something when you knew that they wouldn't be released. Trump was the life of the party. Exactly, Mara. That's exactly right. I mean, Trump and Epstein were two rich playboys who set up these fake model competitions or fake model scouting events. You've seen the video by now. It's just Trump and Jeffrey Epstein and a couple of modeling agency people there in many instances. They even had parties. You've heard this. I think we ran it on the air. They will never call Aosta in, says Joy. I think it's a long shot too. Aosta knows too much. But I think we ran it on the show when we had that. She was formerly a Sports Illustrated model. She was underage at the time. She was 17.
Mm-hmm.
She was brought into these parties, and she goes to these, the modeling agency gets the invite from Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump, and they go into the party, and it's just a bunch of people who are in their 40s or older, or she said there were a couple of guys late 30s. And she was kind of shocked that there was nobody there who was like her contemporary. And there were no guys there who were there in their 20s even. And she quickly understood after a few of these parties, no, that's the way it is. It's always the older men. And then there's an implicit and sometimes explicit aspect to engaging with these men. And that is, if you want a modeling career, if you want to be called for auditions and you want to be called for some of these modeling gigs that everybody's trying to get, you got to play ball. And part of playing ball is with these men and showing up to these parties that we as the agency are inviting you to. There was a subculture of abuse there without question. John Slate says Trump knows if he pardons Maxwell now, it will hurt him too much. So he's going to give her a nice place to stay until he pardons her on his last day. I think that's probably true. I think that he's not going to care what happens when he's out of office or on his last day, should he leave office. And right now, she's got an incredible deal. I mean, she had a wildly disproportionate upgrade given what she's done. She was sent to this Club Fed. It doesn't even have fences. It's got yoga and pickleball and a bunch of other crap. So they've had to, as you know, spend money to add additional security, supposedly for her, because she's a sex offender and sex offenders are not permitted at that prison. And they, as prison officials wonder, supposedly, whether or not her life might be in danger. I mean, I suspect it's not. It's a bunch of white collar criminals there, but nonetheless, they've apparently had to, beef up those protections. Maxwell got on the work release program, says Rev P. She can leave prison. Now, yeah, she can leave prison is right. She only has to show up for sleep. She can now, she can work during the day. And I don't know what her work is, but she can continue to do it. So it's an abomination. But Alex Aosta would have been the great subpoena to get out there. You did send a link to our distinguished guest, yes?
I did, indeed.
Okay. All right. I wanted to also just update, if I could, something that's happening at the White House. I'm sorry to be Trump-centric, but he's doing a lot. You got to admit. I mean, you can then, why do you talk about Trump all the time? Why? Well, you tell me why he's making announcements and deciding on a bunch of stuff that's going to affect Americans in such a big way, taking over cities, broadening the effect of ICE and the reach of the military onto civilian streets. I mean, that deserves a minute or two, don't you think? And then he makes all these other announcements. There's going to be a ballroom at the White House. We're going to move Obama's picture.
The Mark Thompson Show.
They moved Obama's picture, the portrait. I know you talked about it yesterday.
Yeah, I did.
Duck out for a quick second, but they moved Obama's picture to this part of the White House where very few people can see it. It's on the way to the private residence. It's thought that Biden's picture is not done yet, but when Biden's picture is done, it will likely end up in a similar place. There are a lot of pictures of Trump bleeding from the ear, all this stuff. And of course, they have to make room for the Trump merch. I mean, to be fair, they've had to squeeze that merch into a pretty small area. The new merch store, the Trump merch store, it's going to be so beautiful. And, I can't wait to see the bill, or in this case, not see the bill on how much that's going to cost. So
who is having that conversation?
Well, they're having it at the White House. A UFC fight now at the White House is what I wanted to share with you. It's going to happen. Yeah, it's going to happen. It's a $1 billion rights deal that the UFC has just signed with Paramount. And hours later, they've signed a deal with the commander-in-chief, Donald Trump. He's going to schedule a 4th of July fight card next year at the White House.
Are they going to do it in the new ballroom? Maybe that's why they're building the ballroom.
Oh, could be. I
Yeah.
don't think they're going to be able to get everybody in the ballroom, and it probably won't be finished by then. But Trump is saying he wants 20,000 spectators at least to celebrate 250 years of American independence. And he wants the UFC to have that fight on the White House South Lawn live on television. So the idea of caged fights at the White House might have seemed improbable in the past, but it's the real thing. And Trump is saying he wants to make it a cornerstone of the celebration.
So now we rent out the White House for entertainment events? What is happening? I mean,
Well,
it's gone any sense of class and, having this be a residence for world leaders. Like now we're just, I guess if you pay enough, you could have your wedding there. Is that?
Well, Kim, it's not, to be fair, he didn't rent it out. He's saying, I want it, and the American people are going to pay for, these bleacher seats to be put in, for this to be set up, and it's going to be part of the celebration. He's not saying you can rent it out. So I'm sorry for the bar mitzvah plans or the wedding that you're planning. The White House, unless you're a wealthy donor, the White House is not for sale, Kim.
You don't
should
think
know that.
UFC will be paying the Trump or the White House or whatever foundation to use the East Lawn or whatever it is to host a fight at the White House?
I'll leave that to you to investigate that, but I would guess that there wouldn't be a lot of money changing hands. I think Dana White is a very good friend. He owns the UFC of Donald Trump, and I'm sure he's getting a sweetheart deal of sorts. So, yeah, but that's the very latest. So, it's move Obama's picture on Monday. It's sign the UFC deal for the anniversary and have a cage match on the White House lawn on Tuesday. And of course, it's take over the city of Washington on Wednesday. So it's really been an eventful period for this president. Smash the like button if you will. I will have a distinguished guest. I can't wait to introduce you to this guy next.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Yeah, smash it with your iron rod. It's a real thing. We continue. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Feels good.
When they raided Mar-a-Lago, God didn't like that.
Thank you for being here, everyone. We are a live show. You can take us in anytime. We're on YouTube, of course, live from 2 to 4 in the East, 11 to 1 in the West. And you, as I say, can watch us or listen to us in delay on YouTube, also across all major podcast platforms as an audio podcast. The Mark Thompson Show. Find it and take it in. So appreciate everybody being here and hitting the thumbs up. There is a guy I'm really excited to talk to joining us next. Everett Kelley is the president of the American Federation of Government Employees. It's the largest union representing federal and DC government employees. And he's got an amazing track record because when he became president of his local back in 2002, he served there for 9 years. He was at the Anniston Army Depot, and he joined this American Federation of Government Employees. He doubled the membership. It was one of the things when reading about him that I was just so struck by. So clearly an inspirational figure. He became a national vice president of the union. And then, of course, he ascended to the presidency of this union. Please welcome the distinguished guest today, Everett Kelley, everyone.
Mark, thank you. Thank you for having me, sir.
Such a pleasure to see you and talk to you. I love your background in theology, by the way. That for another day. I'd love to, do a deep dive with you on some of that. But today, let's talk about what's happening in Washington with union employees. And, before I get to the Washingtonians that are affected and so many public servants who are affected, I just want to spend a beat, because of your background, on the importance of unions. When I talk about unions, I always say, hey, You know the reason we talk about Monday through Friday and weekends and stuff? Those are unions. Okay, the reason it's 9 to 5, that's union that got that done. Overtime, that's union got overtime. You think that these industries impose some 9 to 5 or Monday through Friday thing on their own? No. Those are hard-fought battles from collective bargaining. I wonder if you could just give me a beat on unions in general.
Well, first of all, unions, in my opinion, is the employee's voice on the job. Collectively, we can do a whole lot more than what one individual can do. And that's the essence of why unions are so important. Because when you start speaking to the management, you're not speaking to the management with the power and weight of one person. You're speaking with the management with the power and weight of the size of that entire organization. In this case, we are 820,000 members strong. So when we start speaking for our members, you're speaking with the weight of that 820,000. But unions are so important because you have a voice in the workplace. But it's more than that. Because anybody that heard me talk lately and speak lately, I speak about the power of we. Okay, because the union is just that. The union is the power of we, where one of us can't accomplish a whole lot. But when we come together as a group, we can do a whole lot of things that one person might not be able to do. And I say that's the power of we, the people, because I don't care what this administration or any administration say, the power is not in the president. The power is in the people. That's
of course.
Us. That's we.
That's such a well-stated notion. And I always say, and that's one of the things that concerns me about this administration, just because you mentioned them, that the systems in Washington, the institutions in Washington are populated by people. And if those people are corrupted, then you've corrupted those institutions and systems. So we can double back to that in a second. I do want to get to what's happening in Washington now. But I want to ask you about why unions have, I think, taken on a bit of a PR problem in the last decade or so. I mean, more and more people seem to be leaving unions. I think teachers unions and police and fire unions, for example, were with some of these sweetheart deals that many of these people who retired, or many of these bad teachers, in the case of some teachers, got this idea somehow that unions were protecting bad work. I think that hurt the union reputation.
And that's so unfortunate, because that is quite contrary. We are not here to protect bad workers. We are here, however, to make sure that if an individual loses their job, they're doing it for just cause, okay? So many times, it's not the union that has the issue, it's the management officials that's really not taking disciplinary actions when they should be. We encourage, if a person is not the stellar employee that they're supposed to be, we're not here to protect them. We're here to make sure that every individual is treated with fairness, dignity, and with respect.
There were none of those things in evidence when Donald Trump's administration and DOJ moved into federal agencies and one by one just slaughtered people. I mean, it was the most wanton, reckless thing I'd ever seen in Washington. I grew up in Washington, and there's a lot of crazy politics, but the idea that you take these people who weren't even vetted, they were friends and associates of Elon Musk, 19 to 26-year-olds, people who delighted in carving up these institutions and allowing them to fire tens of thousands of federal employees at one time. It was just the opposite of what you're describing, where outstanding people, in the case of what happened in Washington, were let go for no other reason than just this ridiculous company, institution that was birthed overnight, DOJ, decided that they were no longer needed.
Yeah.
So what happened, and give it to me from your perspective, because you are really in the belly of the beast.
Okay. Mark, and that is a great question, and I appreciate that question. Because what I want to do is let the listeners here know what's really happening. First of all, when you hear talk about bureaucrats in Washington, D.C., you hear talk about people being lazy that work for the federal government in Washington, D.C., only 15% of the workforce work in Washington, D.C. The rest of the 85% is scattered throughout the community that you live in and I live in. Okay, so that's the piece that is misleading to a lot of people. And also, when you talk about these people are bureaucrats, most a bureaucrat is probably the mindset of a person hearing it is a person sitting behind a desk making rules. Very few of the workforce sit behind a desk, because you have people like Department of Defense that are federal employees, Bureau of Prisons that are federal employees. You have people in the VA that are processing claims for veterans that have served this country and taking care of veterans that have served this country. It's just the misnomer and the narrative and the spin that this administration has put on federal employees, which is very unfair to federal employees that are very patriotic, that take an oath when they go to work for the federal government, and they take it serious what they do. So I think that's very unfortunate. And what DOGE has done has really and will affect the American people, because to come in and dismantle these services that the American people deserve, and many of them are dependent upon, America's going to feel that effect. Because when you start talking about, especially in the case of the VA, they was talking about, we're going to rift 83,000 people from the VA. Now, who feel the brunt of that? It's the veterans themselves. The people like me that have served this country, that are veterans, that's who's going to feel that, and I think that some of the things that's happening right now is completely out of retaliation, because AFGE on day one began to stand up for his members. Okay, and this administration don't want any accountability, and so they come after the people that I represent. But I just want every person that's in the listening audience to know that we're not going anyplace. We are going to stand up when our members are being disrespected and illegally fired and all those types of things. We're going to fight. I'm here because this is a calling for me, Mark. Okay, to stand and speak truth to power. And that I will do.
Give me an idea of how you do that. Can you give me an example of that speaking truth to power? I mean, it's more than just speaking when you're defending so many of these employees that were wantonly dismissed and wrongly dismissed. What form does that take?
Well, it takes on a form of alerting, if you will, the general public about the real truth of what's happening across America. And we do that through rallies, through your audience here, and every other media outlet that we have the opportunity to be on. I think that the American people are now more aware of what's happening across America than they were a few months back, because more and more people like you, Mark, and I thank you for being bold enough to bring people on to talk about these issues. But more and more Americans are now understanding that what they've been fed is just not the truth.
Are there legal muscles that you can flex and bring to bear for some of this?
It is legal opportunity for us, and we're taking advantage of that. We're fighting these issues in the courts, and we're winning in the court. We're also winning in the court of public opinion. However, I do understand that, this administration want to push everything toward the Supreme Court. But I'm hopeful. I still believe that there is hope because we're on the side of right. Because what we're doing is righteous. The work that we do every single day, making sure that the American people get the services that they deserve, that's righteous work. And so I feel that ultimately we're going to win this battle of this war.
Let me give you a couple of tougher questions that have come in. Maybe I'm just looking now at the chat. This is one of the things that I think is sort of in a way, a luxury, but we take a lot of incoming fire from the chat occasionally. So here is a criticism of unions, so you can help me with this. Champagne says, unions protect bad employees because you need multiple written warnings, probationary periods, then more probationary periods, then a disciplinary council. Does the process by which you get rid of a bad employee in general, is it too bureaucratically thick should you be able to get rid of a bad employee more quickly, just in general? Do you think that have unions created a kind of cocooning of bad employees? You sort of already said no, but I wonder if you could comment on this.
I totally disagree with that statement, right? Number one, I'm not on the ground negotiating a contract for, I'm going to say, the DOD employee in Anderson, Alabama, right? I'm not there. I'm here. What will happen is that there will be a negotiation between the management there and the union there, and they will decide how best to deal with disciplinary issues. There is a process in which they negotiate. And then the only thing the union would do is make sure they follow that process. I think that has to be in every aspect of life as an American. We have to have processes in place, and people have to follow those processes. But the union is not here. Matter of fact, I think that if you really dig into the background of unions, we're not here to advocate for bad employees. We want exceptional employees. We just want to make sure that everyone follows the processes that is negotiated. I mean, when you sign a contract with me, I expect you to adhere to it, and you expect me to adhere to it. That's what this is all about. And people have a misconception about we are here to protect bad employees.
And to your point about being on the side of right, Scott says, and this is sort of the position we find ourselves in, a little depressing. Scott Huffman says, you can be on the side of right. That doesn't matter when the other side just disregards the law. You are dealing with a really aggressive, lawless action on the part of this administration, and Everett, it just seems to me that, wow, the pushback, you almost only have, as you say, bringing attention, media, and the law. Those three things, I would think, really are your only pushback available.
Yes. And that's why I say,
yeah, go ahead.
That's why I say that I think we're on the side of right, because right will prevail because the law is on our side. When we think in terms of the Supreme Court, I think that, they have to admit that this is a violation of the First Amendment, some of the things that has occurred, and I think that they can only rule that that is correct. Even when they issued a stay, they did not say that this administration was correct in what they was doing. Okay, they give us an opportunity to litigate, and I think that through litigation, it's going to prove that we're on the side of right, and right will prevail. That's my way of explaining what I said.
Yeah, and that's my hope as well. I mean, I think what is sort of suggested here by Scott in that comment is, of course, you're right, and right is right. But what's happened is the courts even seemed to have been cowed sufficiently by the current administration to the point that you're getting rulings against right, and that is concerning to all of us. And so let me ask you about the legal rulings. I thought I saw a pretty high-profile ruling that was ruling for the administration's ability to dismiss all of those government employees, or at least a large portion of them. Can you speak to that?
Well, they didn't make that ruling. They said that, they issued a stay saying that while it's being litigated, then the government could continue with their plans. That's why I'm saying about the law, and we're on the side of right. And I'm trusting that we have some decency still yet, in the Supreme Court that will rule based on the facts and the violation of the law as it is. That's what I'm saying. They didn't rule and say that the government was correct. No one has said that. Okay?
Yeah, it's interesting, and that is part of the playbook. It's usually it's a Trumpian playbook. Yeah. What he's typically done is he'll be involved in an action. In this case, it's dismissing all these government employees, and let's assume it's illegal. And he'll do it, as he's done, and then the administration and his henchmen, they go on about it with Doge, et cetera. All these people are given their walking papers, lives are destroyed, tens of thousands of government employees are sent, houses have to be sold, people have to move, they have to find other work, whatever. All of this happens while the litigation to protect those employees goes on, and the courts, as you said, issue a stay, and they say, we aren't going to rule on this, as I understand it. They're saying where there is a stay on the firing of any additional employees. No, there's he can still continue, can't he, Everett?
Yeah, he could continue with the process while it's being litigated.
Right. While it's
Okay?
being lit. So exactly
Yeah.
that plays to my point, which is
does.
so he gets to go on and on and on with this just heart-wrenching process. It's hard, even if you're not one of these people, obviously most of us aren't, you're seeing your government dismantled, these lives destroyed, and he gets to continue to do it until ultimately it moves up to the court. So that's a Trumpian move because it's sort of like, yeah, by the time you get to court, you might be sick and dead, or, you know, just you're working somewhere else now, you don't even care.
Absolutely. And those that were fortunate enough to read Project 2025 wouldn't be surprised by these moves, because that's exactly what he said he was going to do. He was going to move quickly and decisively and make everybody fight him in court. You know, and that is a Trumpian move. We understand that, you know, but we're going to fight. You know, we're going to do whatever it takes to make sure that the members that we represent, you know, are represented in court. Now, the other piece of that is that the American people, and this is why your type of program is so important, the American people need to become aware of what's happening, and then they have to rise up too and say that, you know, enough is enough. You know, and that's the other piece of why I talk about the court of public opinion, right? That's the piece of it. We're having rallies all over the country, and people are joining in. We are educating the American people as to what's going on. Matter of fact, I will be in Wilkes-Barre tomorrow at the Social Security to celebrate 90-year anniversary, and we'll be talking about these issues. Then I'll be traveling with AFL-CIO to Los Angeles, California, as we have a bus tour that talks about it's better in a union, and we're bringing out to the American people, you know, these issues and explaining the fact that the services that they're so used to are going to dry up and they're not going to exist anymore, because this administration intends on privatizing all of these services and giving it to the lowest bidder, you know, as a way of paying back those people that have put money into these campaigns and those types of things. And we're going to be standing against it. I hope that the American people will hear and join in with us.
Wow, there you go. Yeah, and I have to say, by the way, you just stated it. You stated it just straight out. The way you're bringing attention to this, I love that you're going to Social Security. I love that, you know, you're drawing attention to AFL-CIO concerns. I love these ways in which you're trying to raise the profile, and then exposing the game, which you just described. We talk about it a lot on this show. The privatization game, it's absolutely clear. The diminishment of the power of Social Security, dismantling Social Security, dismantling the post office, because private industry can do that. They won't do it as well. They won't. They'll do it more expensively. Doesn't matter. It's government taking over. These government moves it's fundamental to the GOP since decades ago. Yes. They just feel as though private industry is where America should be. And yet we've seen what private industry does, and just as it relates to unions, and then I'll let you go. I mean, I just see the way that collective bargaining is being eased out and aggressively pushed out of any kind of workplace and factory. Look at Amazon and that whole back and forth there. I just think these are tough times for union leaders.
Yes, it is, Mark. You know, when you speak in terms of the VA, right, and what happened here recently, you know, Secretary Collins and this administration have stripped all of the VA workers, except for police, security guards, firemen, of their union protection. And he used the premise, says that, you know, unions are standing in the way of the care of veterans. But this is the question that I want to ask this audience and everyone else. Is it the union that's standing in the way and trying to ensure that veterans don't get the best care necessary? Think about this. Is it the union that says, I'm going to shut down all of these medical facilities across the country? It was not the union that said that, because we stood against that, because we want every veteran to have the opportunity to get the best care that they can. I'm a veteran. I don't want to go to a private hospital because I might not get an appointment for 2 and 3 months. But I got the Veterans Crisis Line I can call and I can get some help. Okay, but it wasn't the union that said we want to close down these hospitals. It wasn't the union that said we're going to lay off 83,000 people in the Veterans Administration. It wasn't the union. But we fought against that. We said, no, you shouldn't do that. So who is it then that are more concerned about the care and the well-being of veterans? But this administration became very upset and embarrassed because we stood against it. And they said, okay, we won't do that. We'll only just, do about 30,000 through attrition because they got embarrassed into that.
Going after veterans is embarrassing, and they deserve to be embarrassed. But you're so right. I mean, the VA was a great example of the government working pretty well. I mean, veterans I knew who were part of the VA, they used to just talk about how great it was, how their healthcare, because we talk about healthcare a lot in America, of course, because we've got such a screwed up system. And veterans I know said, yeah, it was great. VA was terrific. Just as you say, if you talk about people who get Social Security, depend on Social Security before these guys got a hold of it. It was a great agency. I mean, they talk about all the Social Security fraud and actually fairly low. Social Security really was an efficient agency. So they've gone after all of these things that were working quite well, and they've sliced them to pieces so that, hobbled as they are, people become disenchanted with them, and then now we'll say, hey, well, private industry can clean this up and really do this much better than government. It's a broken agreement between the government and the people who serve the government, says Rick S. Yeah. I'm just so grateful for the work you do, Everett Kelley. And as I say, wow, what a tough ride. Right now, you're being challenged in ways I think historically you haven't been challenged along the way. I mean, the Federation of Government Employees, wow. I mean, your phone has to be ringing off the hook and your inbox just has to be spilling over. So I wish you well with this ongoing fight. We are with you. You have a place here to please come back and share with us whatever news you need to get out. And then, as I say, you and I will do another visit. I'd love to talk theology with you. I love your theology background, and it would be really a lot of fun.
Well, love to do it with you, Mark. And, just continue to sound the alarm with us and for us, because we can't get the word out without media personalities like you, like yourself. So thank you. And all of those that are working with you to make sure that the American people hear the reality of what's happening in America. And matter of fact, Mark, I'm going to say this. I'm working right now on a book that I'm writing. It'll be my second book. The first one was based on theology. And this one is based on the reality of where we are in America right now. And it's entitled Unbought, Unbowed, and Unstoppable.
I love
it. And Mark, ultimately, AFGE has been here before. We've come out bigger, stronger, and better every time. We've been here for 93 years. When we became a union in 1932, we were faced with these same and similar types of attacks. But we came together and said, we're going to be a union. And we have been a union, and we're going to continue to be a union. And I look forward to coming back and sharing victory celebrations with you.
That sounds awesome. President of the American Federation of Government Employees, Everett Kelley. Thanks, Everett. All the best to you.
Thank you.
All right. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Wow.
The Mark Thompson Show.
How good is he? I'd be a parishioner in his church, That's you can tell. There's a preacher in here trying to get out, He speaks the word.
I've got a family member who's a federal worker and trying to work really hard to save the planet and the environment, and has been tiptoeing around on eggshells ever since this whole thing has happened, has seen coworkers dismissed, has seen people sign a letter they thought was anonymous that apparently all their names were not anonymous, that are now suspended and being fired. It's what's happening doesn't serve the American people at all.
No, it's a kind of jihad.
Mm-hmm.
And when you ask for social media backgrounds and data backgrounds on so many Americans, you see how that jihad is being played out. And I don't know if you saw it, but J.D. Vance is on vacation in yet another place. Maybe you can tell me exactly where. It's not even in this country. It's in Britain. And the police force there, Secret Service, is working with the police force there to get the backgrounds on everybody in the town. They want to see the social media accounts on everybody in the town. So before J.D. Vance, again, this is his third vacation in as many weeks. You know, he just takes breaks to make big statements and do a Maria Bartiromo interview. Then he gets back on a plane, and then we taxpayers pay for this Secret Service protection to then ask all the people in the town for information. They're getting social media account information and data from all the people in this town. It's outrageous. That's for the J.D. Vance vacation. It's in England.
They already don't want him there. They're saying, please don't come.
Here's
Go
the picture for
vacation
those just
somewhere else.
listening. It's a woman holding up a sign that says, Vice Dictator J.D. Vance, go holiday in North Korea or Russia, not our democratic country. It's a...
They're not happy. They don't want those. They don't want Vance to come to their
But to your point,
community.
They are going after everything, looking through so much material, so much data. And with AI, they can do it in an instant. They can see all your social media in an instant. And then they can follow up in ways that involve making sure that you're not around for whatever. Kim, I'd like to actually get some news.
Oh,
then
okay.
Then I have It's the Planet Stupid that I will, because it's typically on Wednesdays, we do a segment about the planet and environment, and our regular eco-journalist is away. So I thought I'd just share a couple of little clips and a thought just about where we are with the planet right now overall. And they got me thinking. Obviously, I'm kind of in a sensitive place because I just suffered this intense loss, but I think it's worth reflecting on and contemplating on, so we'll do that after the news. Right now, big thanks to everybody who has been part of the show today. Many of you who have contributed and also extended your sympathies to me. I so appreciate it. Ron Cook, thank you for a $20 super sticker. Big time shout out to you. Really do appreciate it.
Big shout out.
Yeah. And nothing here says for a $1.99 super chat, so much for a DC anti-Trump million man event. Exactly. They're looking for ways that there won't be the big million man march in DC. That's what that strike force is all about. Richard Delamater says, now that the my darling Frenchie is gone, you got extra room now. Adopt me. That's a sweet thought. But you were definitely higher maintenance than she was. Trump says the Kennedy Center was getting run down and he will make it magnificent now. Yeah, I was at the Kennedy Center a bunch of times. I don't see it as particularly run down, but I get it. It doesn't look like the Trump lobby. Probably not enough gold in there. Richard very much in the chat, very active. I'm going to talk about activity in the chat and a possible award show that we're going to have here on the Mark Thompson Show. We're still in the developmental phases. I'm not like Trump. I don't like to just announce things before I figured it out. So we'll give you more on that. But Richard is certainly someone who's quite active. Richard Delamater with a $2 super chat says, all hail MT, a handsome genius from the future. Wow. I don't really know.
Who is having that conversation?
Exactly. I don't know if I quite, even I have trouble with that one, but thank you nonetheless. All right, Kim's news, and then a word about the planet as we continue. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister, and I don't know where the little news picture is, so we're just gonna, I guess, do it without the news picture.
I'll find it. Yeah, you go ahead.
I'll be in the corner over here just doing my thing.
Okay.
The president says he wants the federal control of Washington, D.C.'s police to be extended. 30 days, not going to be enough, Mark. Today, President Trump said he is planning to ask Congress for an extension of the federalization of the local force in the nation's capital.
So he doesn't want just the first, we're not even through one full day, and he's already decided we need to stay longer than 30 days.
That's right.
Yeah.
The clock is already ticking on Trump's emergency powers over DC police that last for 30 days. Any extensions must be approved by Congress. I'm sure he hates that. And that's doubtful because he needs Democratic support. So we'll see how this whole thing plays out. I wonder if it could expire and then he could do another 30 days after, we'll
He
see
could
how.
declare another emergency. You're right. I'm sure they're looking
Yeah.
at workarounds. They're looking at
Yeah.
executive orders that might work. Absolutely. I agree.
The president is already talking about a second meeting with Vladimir Putin, even though they haven't even gotten through the first one yet.
Wow, this guy's really thinking ahead.
He
He's
really is.
extending the 30 days in Washington, and he's not even through one full day with the troops and his strike force in Washington, okay, with ATF and DEA and National Guard troops. He's already looking at extending that. And then the next story is he hasn't even had this summit with Putin, and he's already planning the second summit with Putin. So I guess, what does that mean? That this one won't be successful? You're already thinking about the next one, or that this one is so successful that you're going to want to see what you can get out of the second one? It's just lunacy. How you guys elected this man, I have no idea. But
Trump's first summit with the Russian leader is still days away. He'll meet with Putin in Alaska on Friday. But today he told reporters, this is a quote, "Certain great things can be gained in the first meeting, but it's setting the table for the second meeting." Trump said he had a great call with Ukrainian President Zelensky and European
if I were Putin, I wouldn't even
allies.
attend the first meeting. It sounds like the second meeting is the only one that really matters.
Yeah,
Go
don't
ahead.
bother showing up for the first one. You're just setting the table. So there you go. Speaking of
So
going,
you had a good call with Zelensky to explain
Great
to
call
him
with
why he
Zelensky.
wasn't invited to
Yeah.
the meeting that's going to carve up his country. Cool.
yeah, isn't that nice? Speaking of Alaska, a glacier outburst is over in Alaska's capital. Flooding in the Mendenhall River in Juneau has created a record level, apparently reaching a record level. River Forecast Center says the river peaked at 16.65 feet this morning, about 7:15 a.m. And by 8 a.m., the water was receding a bit. This comes after a result of the glacial release from something called the Suicide Basin. The river's previous high water level was 15.99 feet last August. So they're having some issues there.
We just saw that Mendenhall Glacier. I want to say, what was it? When Alaska was a couple of months ago, maybe.
Yeah.
3 months ago now. But I mean, it's very famous, So
Mhm.
the idea somehow that there be this water release related to it, I mean, it's kind of, I guess it all fall. It was never mentioned actually when we were touring it. But anyway, go ahead.
A federal appeals court is lifting an injunction on foreign aid payments. President Trump's administration was handed a victory when the appeals court lifted an injunction that required the State Department to continue making foreign aid payments. Then a 3-judge panel ruled 2-1 against the lower court's order to have the Trump administration restore foreign assistance payments previously approved by Congress. The ruling can open a pathway for the Trump administration to cut billions of dollars in foreign assistance funds and advance efforts to dissolve the U.S. Agency for International Development.
I mean, the truth about
USAID.
International monies, that is to say, monies that are earmarked for areas outside of this country, is that it's a fraction of money. It's nothing. It's pocket change money. And it makes such a difference. And it is the soft power that is America. Now, this is an administration that's getting rid of all of that. But these vaccines, food, infrastructure support, these are all things associated with soft power that America has done so well. And it's stamped USA on it. America's had a leadership role in the world that way, and it's also served our interests. Make no mistake about it. Again, you can fly in with humanitarian effort, but with a humanitarian effort to change things, but you can also be doing a kind of PR for your country. And even along the way, I mean, if you read old books like Confessions of an Economic Hitman, American presence and foothold in different countries give the Americans the power to have a presence there that can be profitable for many government companies, or I should say for many American companies, and for the government to continue to administer so much that's going on in the country. That's not always the holiest of holy missions, but that's the other part of soft power. Now, the great example, they're going in the other direction from America as we pull back all of this. USAID, we close it down. We don't care that food, tens of millions of dollars worth of food is just rotting. Stuff that would have helped literally save lives will never be shipped out, even though that money was already appropriated and earmarked. the country that's going the other way with that is what? China. China's going just the opposite direction. The Roads and Belts Initiative through Africa, the presence of Chinese giving away the work with the roads, giving away the infrastructure, giving away the upgrades to so many of these African countries. And across the continent of Africa, China is now elevating itself to a place where they're looked at as potential partners moving forward in business and increased improvements to infrastructure. And so what's happening at the same moment that America constricts its reach, doesn't reach out to these countries and these places where they're already desperately in need of help, and there were already relationships. Those relationships take decades to establish. As America pulls away, China moves in to fill the void. And it will be a very different place. And there's a cold slap in the face coming to this administration. But as mineral exploitation and business exploitation, corporate business of all sorts takes hold in these places where China has cleared the way, those won't be American businesses. So if you only care about the bottom line, Donald Trump, you're not serving your own bottom line. And it could have been done at a fraction of the cost just to maintain USAID. And by the way, it's also the moral right thing to do, to feed and help all of these kids and all of these families. So
you mentioned, we mentioned earlier the takeover of DC and the other cities mentioned as far as sending the National Guard. Oakland, California officials fighting back against potential plans by Trump to send the National Guard to that city as well.
To Hagenberger Road?
Yeah, Hagenberger Road. In-N-Out already closed up.
Notorious. Tell everybody, Kim, what Hagenberger Road is, to those who don't know the Oakland area.
Yeah, Hagenberger Road is a big street in Oakland that takes you from the freeway to the Oakland International Airport. And along Hagenberger Road are restaurants and gas stations, the things that you would need to going to and from the airport. Fill up your rental car with gas as you return it to the airport. So there's a lot of gas stations, a lot of little places to get food, etc. And it's notorious for being a place where car thieves will hit. You leave your car alone for a minute, even your rental car, they're getting your luggage, they're taking things. Restaurants have closed, businesses along Hagenberger have closed because the crime is so rampant there. All right.
They pulled in the CHP to help with the CHP. California Highway Patrol is usually concerned, pull people over, actions on the freeway stuff. Right. They pulled them in to help. The issue was such a big, so I can't think of sort of Oakland crises when it comes to crime without thinking of Hagenberger Road. But it extends beyond that. And then, of course, I'm not saying that doesn't justify whatever Trump is trying to hatch. Right. Go ahead.
So Trump this week mentions the idea of sending these troops to Oakland, claiming Oakland has been overtaken by crime and local authorities haven't done enough in the name of public safety. Well, the mayor of Oakland is Barbara Lee, and she is not having it. She says city officials will fight any such move by Trump, saying we are not going to allow a military occupation of this city. She said Oakland just recently noted a double-digit drop in violent crime, and she says the White House doesn't understand that crime is on the decline in Oakland. Groups have all allegedly funded the Democratic lawmakers who fled Texas and are now getting attention from a senator from the Lone Star State. It is Texas Senator John Cornyn calling on the Department of Justice to investigate the groups that may be behind the Democrats' attempts to stall this Republican redistricting plan. The Republican senator has also called for the FBI to help track down the legislators who fled.
I mean, this is crazy. And again, this is just a flex. The illegality here is not a federal situation. The FBI has no jurisdiction here. It's absolutely absurd to call for the FBI. And then it's even more absurd in this Alice in Wonderland world we're living in right now for Kash Patel and the FBI to go, sure, we'll help you out. We'll track down Democrats and do what? You can't arrest them. You have no jurisdiction here. You're going to track them down and do what? And the Texas Marshals have no jurisdiction. They're not doing anything illegal. You guys, the GOP, did the exact same thing to block voting on a bill in a prior administration. So I don't quite get just the FBI part. Let's just talk about that. I don't get what the FBI is doing here. They should not even be in this conversation. What this all feels like to me, and I always mention this because I think it's the way we have to sort of filter it through the, is this performance? Is this politics? Is this grandstanding? It feels like all of those things, because the reality is the FBI has no jurisdiction. Now, the one thing that concerns me is, I would have said to you and did say to you, DOJ can't fire anybody. DOJ is a made-up agency. Elon Musk and his little tech bro wannabe buddies, they can't dismantle government. You can't do that without congressional approval. I would have said about the tariffs. Donald Trump can't impose tariffs unilaterally. He needs congressional approval. He'd have to declare a state of emergency or something, and there's no emergency that would involve tariffs. And all of those things have happened. So maybe a lawless FBI moves in, but I don't see any legitimate way that the FBI can have anything to do with this situation with Democrats who are now in Illinois and who are making a point about redistricting.
Children under the age of 5 may soon be unable to get Pfizer's COVID vaccine. That is because the FDA is considering a move to revoke its authorization. Pfizer confirming today and noting in a statement that the deliberations are not related to the safety and efficacy of the vaccine. This follows a Health and Human Services announcement sharing the CDC will no longer recommend the vaccine for healthy children or pregnant women. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is calling for steep cuts to interest rates. I don't think he's in charge of that, but speaking with Bloomberg News, Bessent pushed for a half-point reduction and a series of cuts that would substantially lower rates. The Treasury Secretary's latest comments are in line with the Trump administration's pressure campaign on the Federal Reserve to lower rates. President Trump has been calling for interest rate cuts since the beginning of the year, while the Fed has been waiting to see what the effects of the tariffs are on the economy. Speaking of the effects of tariffs on the economy, I have a story about this. Yeah. President Trump says Goldman Sachs should fire its chief economist after he warned that Americans will pay more thanks to the tariffs. Trump took to Truth Social yesterday to tell CEO David Solomon, who also works as a DJ apparently, that he should fire the economist or just focus on his second job. Trump defending his tariffs, arguing they've caused no inflation or problems for America at all. So now he's dictating what Goldman Sachs needs to do.
Who has a second job as a DJ?
I guess the CEO of Goldman Sachs.
The CEO of Goldman Sachs. I guess you can have whatever side hustle you want when you're the CEO of Goldman Sachs.
Right. You can be a DJ. You can do whatever you want to do.
I would just like to book him at my next event, though. I'll look into that.
Lawyers for the state of California. Maybe he'll be called to the lawn on the White House to DJ the UFC event. Lawyers for the state of California and the Trump administration are arguing about the deployment of National Guard troops and the United States Marines to Los Angeles. President Trump deployed 4,000 National Guard troops and 700 Marines to the city in response to what he called violent anti-ICE protests. Well, yesterday, the state's attorney, Megan Strong, argued against having a standing army in the city, calling it unprecedented, saying it violates deep-rooted policy against military involvement in civilian life. She also said it forced Californians to endure anxiety and fear. Eric Hamilton, a lawyer for the Justice Department, says the military deployment is legal, adding the purpose was protecting federal property and personnel. So that case is ongoing. In California as well, UCLA may be getting a portion of its research funding back. Yesterday, a federal judge ordered the Trump administration to restore all suspended National Science Foundation grants to UCLA. Those grants were frozen in July. They account for about a third of the nearly 800 grants that were frozen, totaling $584 million. The judge said the federal government's decision violated a ruling she made in June, which blocks science research grant terminations. The federal government has a week to tell the judge that it has complied with that order. So we'll see what they do. White House officials launching a review of some of the Smithsonian museums. According to the Wall Street Journal, the Smithsonian Institution Secretary was issued a letter regarding the White House review. It is said to be focusing on preserving trust in one of our most cherished institutions. I mean, are we more trusting that they have it right or that Trump has it right? The review seeks to ensure the museums are aligned with a directive from President Trump. 8 of the Smithsonian museums have reportedly been instructed to replace exhibits that include what the letter described as divisive or ideologically driven material with unifying, historically accurate content. I don't
know what to say. I mean, I always felt that one of the problems that we have is the myth of American exceptionalism. We raise our kids and you grow up in a country where there's pride, right? There's pride in so much that America has done well. America was on the right side fighting fascism in World War II. America has stood for freedom of speech. America has stood for equal rights. And slowly we've begun to honor those things, even though they were written, they were not really in practice. And I'd suggest that they aren't completely in practice still, but that there was a movement toward those goals. America has had a special quality in the world because it does involve a democratic republic, the people's voice. I'm not making a speech here. I'm just kind of trying to put this in a context. And so you end up with this very clear view of what America was and how you're dry cleaning it now to reinforce the myth of American exceptionalism, the idea that America never made a mistake. I mean, one of the things that you can be proud about with America is that we eventually got rid of slavery. You can be proud of the fact that we eventually gave women the vote, just for, 2 starters. You can be proud of the fact that in the turbulent 60s, we birthed a real movement of civil rights. And LBJ got all of these programs started designed to lift up so much of America. You can be proud of these things. But if you view America as a place where people of color never did anything, it's all white guys, you want to get rid of the embarrassing part, shameful part, horrifying part of America's past, what we did to Americans who were of Japanese descent during World War II. I mean, these are facts, and they deserve just to be studied as history. No one's blaming you, Donald Trump, for that stuff. You don't need to erase history from our museums. Again, take pride in the fact that we do talk about that. When you go to Germany, they speak openly in their museums and in so much of the monuments that populate different German cities about the Holocaust. They recognize it. It's a horrible, shameful thing. And they recognize all the Jews who died, all the Jews who were a critical part of the fabric of German life, being loaded onto boxcars. They were slaughtered, 6 million people. And the Jewish community there, I don't know what it's like for them now, but I know at least they have noted in more than just a footnote everything that was going on. And the German culture is committed to it not happening again. And similarly, America can be proud of these things, and we can recognize it in museums and in monuments and in other ways. But I don't know what they're doing. I mean, it's just they are taking a blowtorch to history. And as I say, they're just erasing those things that are and were shameful, but erasing them is, in a way, to buy into how shameful it is. It's just as shameful for you to try to erase them.
Yeah.
So,
StubHub is apparently again moving toward going public. Experts say the papers have been filed and the IPO is expected to debut as early as next month.
Man, StubHub, they got to be making a fortune. You should buy that stock. I mean, are you kidding? You pay $1 jillion for some Bruno Mars concert, and then on the way out, it's like, oh, by the way, there's an administration fee. And it's it's 20% of $1 jillion. Are you kidding? I'm paying $1 jillion and now 20% on top of that?
And by the way, we're the only place you can buy these tickets, so you're stuck.
Thank you. Exactly right. Oh my God.
Anthropic is offering its conversational AI assistant, Claude, to the workforce of all three branches of government for $1. The move comes after OpenAI offered ChatGPT to executive branch workers for the same $1 cost. Anthropic says that offer is good for 1 year. AI in government, anybody concerned? It's making a lot of mistakes, AI, lately. I don't know. Comedian Jimmy Kimmel is revealing why he chose to obtain Italian citizenship. I mean, is there a question why he chose to get Italian citizenship? He might have to leave in a real hurry. The Jimmy Kimmel Live host recently appeared on a podcast sharing that politics influenced his decision. Kimmel has routinely criticized Trump as well as his policies since his first term in office, and the president has fired back, calling Jimmy Kimmel stupid. Jimmy Kimmel joins a list of other comedians, including Ellen DeGeneres and Rosie O'Donnell, who in those cases have actually moved abroad due to Trump's reelection.
I mean, Jimmy might have to do that. I think he's just a national treasure. I think Kimmel is a national treasure. Amazing. And what he's had the courage to do. And it's not just all about Trump. You know, he talked about the healthcare system when his son needed heart surgery. Jimmy has been, I think, an extraordinary celebrity from the standpoint of representing things that are right in America.
Absolutely. And look what he did for the people of Los Angeles during the fires, and going out and helping and making things better for people. He's a good guy.
Look at what he did most recently when National Guard troops and Marines were called in. He showed America how small an area was actually being affected. He did some very funny things. This is the amazing thing. He's not just making a speech the way I do. He's funny on top of that, you know. So it's just, his presentation is wonderful, and his politics are in the right place all the time, 100% of the time.
If you want to get a little creepy in California, the Poltergeist house is now available for rent. This is a house in Simi Valley, California. It's been completely redesigned to mimic the set from the 1982 horror film Poltergeist. It can sleep up to 8 people. You can bring your pets as well. Reservations, though, start at $600 a night. Last year, the home was sold for the first time in more than 4 decades. It went for $1.3 million. So apparently the owners had the big idea of offering it up for rent.
I snuck on to the Poltergeist stage. It was a closed set on the Sony lot, and used to be the MGM lot. And I took my little brother with me. And the reason I had access to begin with was because I'd been a PA on Chips, the motorcycle cop show. Okay. And so I think I still had the pass or something. I kind of forget how we got on, but I mean, I must have flashed the pass. We didn't just sneak on the lot. So we walk on the lot, and then I took my little brother, I think I took him to the store, to the studio store, whatever it was. And then it might have still been the MGM lot at that time. And we see this closed set, and it's Poltergeist. And there's a little, one of those things that people put on top of their car, or the law enforcement puts on top of the car, one of those rotating red bubbles. And it was rotating, and it was red, okay? And I said, when it stops rotating and red, we're going to walk in and just, keep your mouth shut, but you walk in like you own the place. Like, this is your set.
Like you belong there, right?
So we walk in. This is a Steven Spielberg movie, Poltergeist. And my brother and I stand there, kind of find a place in the shadows, but I mean, right there on the set. We were close. I didn't stand there way back against the wall. I got right up on it, like I belong. And we saw this scene where the old lady has that light flashing at her. I think it's from the TV show or something. And she's walk into the light. That's it. We saw that scene being shot. And it was one of the key scenes in the movie. It was so cool. And then before we could be kicked out, about 45 minutes later, we just booked out and we were fine. But it was really cool. So I can't hear a Poltergeist story without thinking of that. Yeah, and thinking of that set. It was a Spielberg movie. I didn't see him there that day, though.
Well, lastly, legendary rapper Snoop Dogg will be the Los Angeles community chairman for the 2026 FIFA World Cup.
Wow.
Snoop, where are my weed smokers at?
He does really well when you send him to the Olympics, you have him be the ambassador, the community chairman. He's got a great way about him, right? A lot of
Yeah.
people upset with Snoop, though, because he did a Trump performance. But Snoop, a Long Beach native, was selected by the Los Angeles Sports and Entertainment Commission. So he will be in charge of developing positive community engagement for the Los Angeles region. SoFi Stadium will host 8 World Cup matches, starting with the U.S. men's national team opening match June 11th of next year. And Snoop will be up in all of it. So there you go.
Wow. Snoop is really, he's pretty, I would say, broad in his appeal. I don't know that he has to climb up into MAGA country as much as he has, but, I guess that's what people are doing. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com is what I am enjoying right now, my friends. And even in our darkest hours, I think that this is an uplifting blend. And might I say that if you haven't yet, you need to check it out, CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. And I know some of you, we can, and because this happens to me, and so that's I'm figuring it happens to other people, you get kind of into the stuff you like I like the Ocotillo Espresso and I like the El Gato. And I get into that lane and I just order more. But this Clarity Blend is changing my life, baby. I am suggesting the Clarity Blend to all of you. It's a, what is it again, Kim? You told me it's like a...
Lion's mane. It has a lion's mane in it, which is kind of a
exactly.
mushroom that will improve your mental outlook. That is the thought.
It has totally changed my mental outlook. No, I can't say it's done that, but I do think it's delicious. There's the Ocotillo Espresso, and they have the Guatemalan honey processed. And again, they're tasting notes and, if you will, a tasting profile on every single bean, hand-roasted beans. And then, of course, the teas will light up your life. Kim adores the teas. They have decaf coffee, by the way. They have coffee from all these different countries, and they, again, it's fresh cut. You know this, many who are regular listeners to the show, but for those who are new, keep it in mind. Check it out. And again, as I say, even if you're, there it is, ginger mint, decaf breakfast blend, vanilla tea.
Oh, that's my favorite. Will you talk about something that has changed your life? Like, I'll be having a day, it's long and things are going on, and my husband will hand me a big cup of vanilla tea, Coachella Valley Coffee.com vanilla tea, iced tea, and it's just one sip and everything is just like, okay.
Oh, that's so cool.
I'm okay now. I'm okay.
Love to hear that. Wow.
Vanilla tea is so good. And they have some other really great teas. And check this out. You can buy the tea bags if you want to. And they are, they're kind of an organic material. So it's a little better than things with staples. And I don't know. I just like them. I think they're great.
Yeah.
But there's all kinds of things on the website. It's CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Here's the ginger mint tea. That's a really good one too. Green tea, spearmint, ginger root. That's really, really tasty and refreshing.
You can tell Kim has driven through the tea world. I've driven through the coffee world, and we are coming out recommending CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Again, when you check out, use Mark Tea. There's the mango tea. Ooh.
It's so good. Organic Chinese black tea, mangoes, calendula petals, and natural mango flavor.
10% off with the use of Mark Tea at checkout. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Thank you, Kim. What a wonderful ride through Coffee Land. Really do appreciate you. Thank you.
Feel it in your soul. The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah, feel it, baby. Feel it. Feel it, feel it, feel it. Thank you for being here, everyone. It has been an interesting show where we don't have our normal crew. It's just Kim and myself. And I, of course, missed them, but I thought under the circumstances, we did okay. Great guest and great conversations, and I think we got to a lot of stuff, and the stuff that we didn't get to, we will get to tomorrow. In fact, David Katz joins tomorrow.
Yeah,
does he not?
He does.
I did promise you a little, it's the planet stupid, and then Kim went way along.
I'm sorry. It was my fault.
Yeah, I mean, I really do think...
Kim, how are you?
But I am going to play because I promised it. And as usual, I'm a cry in the night. Can you play the Brian Cox video, or do you want me to save it for tomorrow?
I think you promised it.
That's
so I
code
think
for
we'll do it.
You'll never hear it.
Do you want the climate change or the meaning of life? You get to choose.
I like climate change. Go for that.
Okay.
This is Brian Cox, brilliant astronomer, astrophysicist, award-winning magnificent. You should read his book. You should listen to his stuff, watch his videos, etc. if you have an interest in it. But listen to what he
I think they
says.
thought I'd say, welcome to Glasgow, have a nice meeting.
Okay, so
but I
she's
made this
prepping
little
it. We'll
argument
get
as
it.
fast as I could.
Can
I said,
we
it's possible
Gail, you get it to the
this is the
beginning
only
or
place
whatever?
where complex
Yeah.
biology
Well,
is
Kim's
emerged
working that out.
in our
Here you go.
galaxy.
Kim,
If
now
that's
can you-
true, this is the only ion meaning in a galaxy of 400 billion
so
suns.
I
And
wanna,
you are responsible.
But here's what I want to do. I want you to get it to the beginning before we, I don't want to just jump on in the middle. So I'll just keep it playing and I'll move it to the stage. Here we go.
Talk a little video thing at one of the climate summit, the COP climate summit in Glasgow in the UK a few years ago. And they asked me to do a little video to the world leaders. I think they thought I'd say, welcome to Glasgow, have a nice meeting. But I made this little argument as fast as I could. I said, it's possible at least that this is the only place where complex biology has emerged in our galaxy. If that's true, this is the only island of meaning in a galaxy of 400 billion suns. And you are responsible for it because you are the world leaders. Therefore, if you destroy it through deliberate action or inaction, then each of you would be personally responsible for destroying meaning in a galaxy of 400 billion suns, potentially forever. Now go and discuss that. I gave it.
It's, I think, a key note, and I will say we've said it on this show many times. I especially have said it as there's sort of been this renewed interest in Elon Musk and his crew going to Mars. There is no other inhabitable planet. The sort of evolution required for us to get to where we are is extraordinary. And I've talked to Andrew Fracknoy about it. Professor Fracknoy, we should have back. I'd love to have Brian Cox on. But the idea is simply that the Goldilocks planet that we are, not too hot, not too cold, not too much asteroid damage. And in the billions of years that the Earth has evolved, there has been just the right mix of heat, of chemistry, of electricity to produce what we have, an intelligent species that's actually so intelligent that we're able to understand so much of what would be mysterious and we'd have no understanding of. We understand even our role within these relationships with other species. And the only thing I would say is with that comes such great responsibility. And I'm downcast about how we've shirked that responsibility. We haven't really honored our role. And so we're the only species in the world that will foul its own habitat. There is no other species in the world that will foul and destroy its own habitat. Look at species after species, the way they exist. None of them foul their own habitat. My God, you have to put chickens in those football field length barns right up against each other for them to have to stand in their own feces. Otherwise, they wouldn't. They're clean. Chickens wouldn't be like that. These creatures that are housed in these warehouses the way they are, just the way we've dumped poisons into the water, into the air, into the land, into the soil, we've contaminated it in so many ways. All I would say is this clearly is not honoring what has happened here and the specialness of this planet. And so I like that cut because what he's saying is there are millions of stars in the galaxy, like our sun, millions of solar systems. And this literally may be, based on research, he's not just speaking out of theory. This literally may be the only place where there's intelligent life like this. So many things had to come together to actually produce intelligent life. Look at the chain of evolution that had to bring humanity into existence. After you look at that, how you can't conserve this wondrous place with all of these riches and resources, how you can't insist that we all live sustainably so that we don't poison, foul, and destroy our own habitat, I don't know how you get there. But I love that cut for that reason from astronomer Brian Cox. So, David Mills, a shout out for USAID hitman John Perkins. Oh, that is a reference to what I was talking about before. Big shout out. Yeah, when I was talking about the Confessions of an Economic Hitman, John Perkins is the guy who wrote the book. He worked as an economist for, was it the State Department? For the government. And he details in Confessions of an Economic Hitman the way that the United States does business. And I was talking about that soft power through USAID, but there's also the soft power through strong arming governments like, yeah, we notice you need a dam here. I mean, a dam would totally change the way you do agriculture here and you grow crops. And you know what we're going to do as the USA? We're going to build that dam for you. But the first, it usually comes like, we don't need a dam. We don't need you guys here. Thank you. Our farmers are fine. They go, no, you need a dam and we're going to build it for you. We're going to build it for you for free. And they say, well, no, really, we don't want you guys necessarily here in the U.S. And they go, no, you need a dam. We have specialists who have identified you need a dam and they're going to build it. And guess what? We're going to start building it on the 1st of next month. They go, no. Well, we're going to. So either you're going to be good with it or we're going to have to start doing it and you're not going to be good with it. That was the progression of the conversation. And that's how we got a foothold in much of Latin America. That's how we get our foothold around the world. So that's the book he's talking about, Confessions of an Economic Hitman, USAID and dismantling there. But soft power doesn't have to be that way. It can just be soft power. It can be charity, in effect. But it's great that it's stamped with, from the USA. So I get chatty. $2 at a time. I get my 2 cents in, says Richard Delamain. Yeah, love your chattiness. Thank you.
I'll read this one from Luis, honoring Frenchie, whose longevity is a tribute to the love and care she received. May her memory keep her spirit alive and comfort all that hold her dear. That's from Luis. Thanks, Luis.
Our sweet Frenchie. Okay. Well, I'm excited about tomorrow. David Katz, many legal questions. On Friday, we got a listener email asking about Philip Bump, who just left the Washington Post, the brilliant columnist, and saying, is there any way you could book him again? The reason I got my subscription to the Washington Post, this listener wrote, is because we heard Philip Bump on your show once. So we put the word out to Philip Bump, and he is coming on Friday.
Yay!
Yeah, so that's really cool. We got some really smart people through. So again, it'll be Katz tomorrow, Bump along with Shore and Avila on Friday. A lot happening on the show this week. We'll have Albert tomorrow as well. Guys, thank you very much. Appreciate all the love. Kim, I don't know if you're doing the after party, but check out that after party live channel. They're live, baby. And now the great Shadow, if you would please.
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Love you. Love you.
All the time.
Love
Bye-bye.
you. Love you more. Love you. Love you. Bye-bye.